Okay, so the Arnold press, or 180-degree rotational presses. Whatever you call it, it's the same movement. For this one, you can see I'm starting with my palms facing inwards towards my chest. Typically, when you perform an overhead press with dumbbells, your palms are facing outwards and you're just pressing up in that same plane of movement. The benefit to this one is it adds a new dynamic into the exercise. Performing it this way works a lot of our posterior deltoid, our medial or lateral deltoid, and our rotator cuff by bringing it out and straight into that press. You'll see within this movement that I really am performing this under a controlled tempo. Slowly up, full extension of the arms. This is where I can focus on squeezing and engaging my deltoids. So you give them a nice flex up at the top. I slowly resist them back down. Weights aren't dropping down, I'm controlling. This is part of the exercise. And as I do so, rotate in, and you'll see by doing that, brings a lot more stress into that lateral and posterior deltoid. So a great exercise that kind of combines two movements in one. It's more of a compound exercise. I'll go as heavy as I can, including rest pauses, assisted spot, having my training partner spot me so I can push past that threshold, and then a drop set. Once I hit my point of failure, I'm going to drop the weight down about 20 or 30% and do what I've got left in me. So 3 working sets here, progressively building up the weights. My shoulders are nicely warmed up. Now I can move on and start to focus more on an isolation exercise for the posterior or rear deltoid. 3 different variations for exercise number 2. The focus is on the posterior, the back deltoid, which for many, including myself, tends to be the weaker of the 3 deltoid heads. If you think about it, any chest press movements or overhead presses involves a lot of the anterior deltoid. It's the largest of the 3. So this one gets worked a lot in many different movements. The lateral as well, the medial delt. Anytime we do this or even presses, that gets involved too. So the rear deltoid only really gets focused on when we do movements like this, where we take the arms behind the back. You can see I start out on dumbbells. For this one, I like to go as heavy as I can, keeping good form. And you'll notice in my arm movement as well, I'm not trying to fully extend my arm out straight. I've always got a slight bend in the elbow. The reason for that is if I start to extend my arm out like this, my tricep becomes activated. By keeping my elbow slightly bent, more of that effort, that workload is placed on the back deltoid. So that's the focus with doing the bent over dumbbells. I'm sat back, hips back, knees soft, and my upper torso about 40-45 degrees to an angle on the floor. This way I get a lot more variation with how I move my arms. Even so that I can add a drop set in. You'll see that I drop down from a heavier weight just to a little bit lighter one. With my hands, normally I'll open them out like this in a neutral position. I add a rotation. As I start to open my arm out, I'll rotate my thumb downwards. I just feel it activates a little bit more of the rear deltoid. After dumbbells, I perform some reverse cable flies. The thing I like about this is the range of motion. I've got tension kept on the back deltoid throughout the entire range of motion, which is not the same as when performing with free weights. So that's the key difference. Free weights, you've got a much heavier load at the end of the pivoting point, the shoulder. Cables, because of the way the weight stack is set up, you've got a more consistent, clean, constant level of tension throughout that full range of motion. And then finally, I'm going to work independently on each shoulder. I do a bent over, sort of under chest, rear fly. For this, I feel I get an even longer range of motion because I can stretch out that delt all the way back, which is hard to do on dumbbells and even cables together. So 3 different options there. Each one has its own significance on the rear deltoid. Mix it up, try all 3, or incorporate it into a tricep. Rear deltoid feeling really pumped. Now let's move on. We're going to finish off just a little bit of work on that lateral or medial deltoid. Finishing up with exercise number 3, lateral dumbbell raises. For this one, you can see I'm performing this seated. I feel that it gives me a much more stricter movement. I'm not going as heavy as I might if I'm standing, but notice my arm position too. I'm keeping close to 90-degree bend at my elbow. So it's my elbow that I'm trying to push up. Imagine if you've got someone behind you and they're pushing your elbows down with their hands. It's that movement, that force that you want to try and push up against. Therefore, all of that work is done on the medial deltoid. Of course, the anterior and posterior, the front and the rear deltoid, of course, come into play. but the focus is primarily on that middle deltoid head. So I'm pushing my elbows up. As I finish, I try and keep my elbows in line with my shoulders. I don't want to be too far forwards or squeezing back like this. Everything in alignment. And you can see as well, my wrist, elbow, and shoulder are all on that same plane. So all the movement originates pretty much from that medial deltoid. 10, 12 repetitions here, maybe a drop set. Because this is towards the end of my workout, I simply just don't have the strength or the energy that I did for those first 2 exercises. So more drop sets here, maybe some more rest pauses or a circuit. But speaking of drop set, you can see that I went from a seated lateral raise to a standing one. I dropped the weight back about 50%. And a few things here. Because I'm now standing, I can perform them in front, to the side, or behind. And that's simply because the deltoid muscle is one big pennant muscle. It's kind of a cross fiber, diagonal muscle. So don't get stuck into the notion that you need to work everything from one plane. Especially with shoulders, and if you're standing, work to the front, work to the side, and if you can, work behind, even going as far as using a cable for lateral raise so that you can get that nice pull behind. Okay, there we have 3 main exercises, all of which work really well to helping you develop all of the 3 deltoid heads. And as I said, these can be performed in a circuit, one after the other with minimal rest in between, or like I've done today, each exercise 3 or 4 sets at most. Aim for that 10 to 12 rep and focus on your execution, your tempo, and feeling that muscle work. Alright guys, make sure you like, subscribe, comment. We've got videos coming literally every week. You can find out more on my Facebook videos. See you guys soon. Take care.